and to look at multifamily and real estate as a business. Whereas most beginning investors
Yeah,
just think of it as a hobby or a side hustle or a second hobby or just real estate. No, it's a scalable,
yeah.
repeatable business.
Welcome back to the Massive Passive Capital Podcast. I'm Gary Wilson, your host. I'm so glad to have you back listening to the show or watching if that's the case. As you know, you can watch it on YouTube, Facebook. We can put it on LinkedIn. But whatever you're doing, just we'll sit back and enjoy. If you're driving, just keep driving. We're going to give you the show notes later. If you're not driving, this is definitely one you want to take notes on. We got Gino Barbaro on. And Gino, thank you so much for joining us. I've been reading all about you. I've heard about you before, looking at the books, looking, everything. This is a good day for Gary Wilson and the Massive Passive Capital audience. We're lucky to have you, and we know it, man. So thanks for being here.
Thanks, Gary. I want you to say that 3 times. Massive passive cash flow. Massive. That's a tongue twister
Massive, it
there.
is. I know.
And when I was
I
reading
think
it
they.
before we jumped on, we talked about passive, and that word passive,
Yeah.
it's a misnomer. It can be
Mhm.
passive, but there has to be somebody driving the ship. At some point when you're starting out in your career, it's got to be active. And the hope is at some
Yeah.
point you can turn it into some kind of passive income, right, Gary?
Absolutely. Yeah, you got somebody's got to build the machine first, and if it's your vision, usually you're part of that process. Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah. Hey, if you don't mind, for those people who are not familiar with it, give us a little background. I mean, I know we were talking about the your parents and the restaurant, and so many of us came from a different walk of life before we got into the world of investing, whether it's real estate or other asset classes, mainly real estate. But take us down a journey so we understand how you got into this. If you don't mind. Mhm.
I am the son of two immigrants. Both my parents are from Italy, and I was fortunate and blessed to have two amazing parents. The hard work ethic that they instilled in me, the responsibility mindset. We opened the restaurant, my dad, when I was 7 years old, and I had worked at that restaurant since I was 7 years old. And when I went to college, I'm like, I always thought I wanted to open up my own restaurant. Got into the corporate world for about 3 minutes. I was in reinsurance
Mhm.
accounting, Gary, of all things. One of the most
Oh
boring.
boy.
It was painful, dude. I just was not the cubicle guy. And I said,
Mhm.
Dad, can we buy a restaurant together? And we ended up buying a little place back in 1994. So I've been making payroll since 1994. It's been a long time. A lot of sleepless
Mhm.
nights, a lot of, anxiety, but also a lot of great times. And I was with the
Yeah.
family for about I guess up until about 2005, 2006. First 10, 11
Mhm.
years, Gary, they were amazing. Back then, it was less competition. Eating habits were different. People actually enjoyed to go out, and we
Mhm.
did really well. It was the time where I think back in the economy where a small mom and pop shop could thrive. '07 comes, my dad passes away, and I just say to myself, am I living his dream or am I living my
Yep.
dream? And I had to really fess up, Gary, to say that I think I'm living his dream because I loved working with him. I loved the whole atmosphere, the family atmosphere.
Yep.
I loved relying on him. I loved being with him. And when '08 came, we all know what happened. Everything changed.
Yep.
I read T.
Mhm.
Harv Eker's book, The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, and that completely
Yep.
changed my life forever. Because up to that point, I was blaming Bush. I was blaming Obama. I was blaming the economy. But I'm sure there are Gary Wilsons of the world out there at that time making millions of bucks. What is Gary
Mhm.
and everyone else out there doing that I'm not doing? Well, the first thing that Gary's not doing is he's not making excuses. The second thing is
Yeah.
Gary probably is providing a lot more value than I was back then. So I
Mhm.
jumped into multifamily. I had done a couple of deals, but they had gone really bad because I thought, hey, as a new investor, I'm just looking for
Yeah.
deals. I don't need to learn
Mhm.
anything. Got into mentorship. Fortunately for myself, I met my business partner Jake in 2009 at the restaurant. He was a pharmaceutical rep selling
Mhm.
pharmaceuticals, coming to my restaurant, taking out catering orders, going to
Mhm.
doctors' offices. And he was a grinder, he was a
Mhm.
hustler. I loved his work ethic. He moved to Knoxville in 2011, and Jake and I partnered up and we started buying deals.
Now, did you buy deals in Knoxville?
We bought him. We started buying him in Knoxville. That's when Jake moved in
Okay.
2011. And listen, it was about 18 months.
Yeah.
18 months to find that very
Yeah.
first deal with Jake.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a run. I mean, that's where my mother's family's from, and we used to go there when I was a kid. And I forget Indian Head Lake or something like that. It was great times, but Knoxville has really taken off. I mean, that whole
Hmm.
corridor, go down 75 down to Chattanooga, and it's just amazing. So, all right, so you got started in multifamily, and again, that's how I got started. Little duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, and at the end of a year, I got 30 units. But at the same time, I really didn't. have the knowledge. I didn't have the skills to know how to really take it to the next level. So I just kept doing that till finally I'm like, there's got to be a better way, you know. So what was the next step for you? What was there a connection you made, a relationship, a book you took, read, or a course you took, or how did you go from where that point was to the next step? You know?
The aha moment was I always like to reference life before Jake and life after Jake. Life before
Mhm.
Jake for me, I made a ton of mistakes. I had no
Mhm.
map, I had no process. I was the investor out there
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, I want a deal. What's a deal look like? Duplex, great. Let me put that on the contract. 6 unit under contract, mixed use under contract. Hey, a little self storage on the contract." I was everywhere. And when you are
Yeah.
everywhere, you're nowhere. So the epiphany
Yeah.
for me, honestly, after that very first deal we did at 25 units, we found the deal and we put in our second deal on the contract 3 months after that. And that's when we came up with our framework of buy right, manage right, and finance right. And when you look at the
Okay.
framework, you can use that to buy a business, you can use it to buy a single family
Yeah.
home, you can use it to buy a multifamily. And for us, it's really focusing on those three pillars. And when you look at a
Mhm.
deal, even a vacation rental, you need to learn how to buy the asset. What are you buying? What's your criteria? What does the finance portion look like? And then obviously the third part, we call it Wheelbarrow Profits, the wheelbarrow. The third part of the
Okay.
wheelbarrow is the wheel. It's in constant motion. And if you're not managing that
Right.
asset or managing that business or managing that Airbnb, somebody has to be managing it. You have to be managing the
Mhm.
manager. And I think that was the epiphany for me to put all three of those pillars together and to look at multifamily and real estate as a business. Whereas most beginning
Yeah.
investors just think of it as a hobby or a side hustle or a second hobby or just real estate. No, it's a scalable,
Yeah.
repeatable business. It's every deal you
Yeah.
do, if you can think of it as a future stream of revenue where you're buying a net operating income and you're looking 3 or 4 or 5 years out where you can get that to, you're trying to extrapolate the equity out of that deal and repurpose that equity into the next deal. To me,
Yeah.
Gary, that was the saving grace and changed everything for me. I was just saying to myself, that's the business that I want to get into where I can start, crystallizing that equity and moving that equity into the next deal.
Yeah. That's such sage advice. And now about that time, I'm going to kind of wager that, you know, we I have a family. I'm sure you had a family too. And what happens is you got to keep doing the thing you're doing that's making money now while you're
Yes.
building the new thing, right? You can't just like leap. If you can, but it could be disastrous if you let go of the old thing first. But there's always strains on family relationships and things like that. So if we could, I want to talk about the mindset a little bit, mindset, because I know you've been through that journey, that part of the journey too, like me. But I don't have any like a book on that. I don't have a course on that. And when I teach people, I give them, inspiration and I encourage them and I give them my own life, experiences and advice and that kind of thing. But, what can you share with people when it comes to, how did you navigate through that phase where your wife and kids are like, Dad, we want to have more of you around. The money's great, Disney World's great, but um anything you can share there,
There is a such thing as work-life balance, Gary. I just don't think
Okay.
it's there when you're building it. I'm going to be completely frank. I came home from work one day in
Yeah.
2008 and I looked at my wife and I said, Julia, I need a change. I can't keep doing this. I don't see a future for us in this. And she says, what do you need? I said, well, guess what? I think I need to get out of the restaurant business and I think I need to move to Florida. And she looked at me for 3 seconds. And
Mhm.
probably the first 2 seconds, she probably said to herself, you must be nuts. But then by second number three, she said, okay, if that's what you need, then that's what we'll do. And you need to have a spouse that's on board. My wife was on board, but at the same time,
Yeah.
she knew that I was a provider, that I had provided for my entire life for the family, that I would continue to work my face off. I mean, at that point, I was getting up in the morning. We homeschool our kids. I've got 6 kids. So in the morning, I was getting up,
Wow.
homeschooling the kids from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, going to work at 9 o'clock at the restaurant, working till 1 o'clock at lunchtime. At lunchtime, I would get off, work real estate for an hour and a half. 3 o'clock, 3:30, dinner rush is coming. Restaurant, leave 8 at 9 o'clock, go home, put the kids to bed, and do work at nighttime. If you want to succeed and you want to give yourself a runway, you need to put in the work. Now, do you have to do that for the next 10 or 15 years of your life? No. And you had great advice.
Right.
You don't have to burn the ships, maybe mentally. I said to myself, I'm going to be leaving, but give yourself time. Don't quit that W 2
Right.
job or that small business where you're earning income. Because what happened, Gary, for me was I'm working and working 18 months to find the first deal. But within 3 years,
Yeah.
I've got over 200 units. And all of a sudden, my W
Wow.
2, my business has been paying for my lifestyle. These assets here, I'm able to take that money and reinvest it into real estate and not use that money to live off of. If you can defer the
Yeah.
gratification and continue to do that, then by year 5 in March of 2016, I had enough income coming in and enough equity that I could leave my job responsibly. I think the whole allure of burning the ships and being sexy and looking at Instagram, you don't need to do that. You can take a
Yeah.
slow, methodical approach and give yourself a 3 to 5 year window. Listen, it's interesting. COVID happened 5 years ago. Time flies.
Mhm.
It's amazing how quick
I
time
know.
flies. So if you plant your flag today and say, hey, in 5 years, I'm going to leave my job, but this is what I need to do. I've got 60 months. That's a lot of time to get stuff done. You do one deal a year for the next 5 years. I will guarantee you within
Yeah.
5 years, you'll have enough equity and or cash flow to leave that job.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. It's funny. I set the same kind of goals, and but I hadn't put it in perspective relative to COVID. You're right. It was 2020, right about this time here. We just started seeing things on the news. What's this thing
Hmm.
called COVID? What's going on in China? And nobody was really taking it too seriously until March hit, and then that's when
Yes.
the floor dropped out. But we launched a new business model at that time, and here we are 5 years later, and we literally just started having meetings on the next 5 years. But I'm going to
Yes.
use what you said in the next week's team meeting and say, look, guys, and I'll give you credit for it. Gino Barbaro told me this about relative to the COVID 5 year period, how fast it went. Look what we could do,
Hmm.
and look what we did during the COVID years. Imagine what we
Yes.
can do without the COVID going on.
Hmm.
So, so in any case, the really what we're talking about is being able to generate the cash flow to maintain your lifestyle and make sure you have that work life balance so you can keep your family happy. Because really, at the end of the day, what we leave our family, it's not really the money. It's who we became as people to be able to make
Hmm.
that money, to be able to leave them the
Hmm.
money we want to leave them and our grandkids when they're gone. So I know you and I were talking about this before the show, the legacy. And I'm just at that age now where unfortunately I just lost one of my parents. My other parent is doing okay, but he's at 88 and starting to get sick a lot. He's just more susceptible to things. And we're like, really, I think he's going to kind of give us the message. I love you kids, but I don't need to see you that much. Because we're like, Dad, can we come see you? Can we go to lunch? Can
Uh-huh.
we take a walk? But I understand you have a new book that you're, I don't know, have you working on it? Is it already out or, but it actually talks about this. I just don't know anything more about it because I still know your other books, but I don't know this one. But can you expand on that? And does it go into this type of subject? Mm.
It does. The book is called Happy Money, Happy Family, Happy Legacy. And people may be
Excellent.
saying to themselves, well, happy money, money doesn't make you happy. And that's not what the book is about. And that's not what the message is about. I was able to interview a gentleman named Ken Honda, who's the original author of the Happy Money book. He sold over 8 million copies. He said to me in his Japanese accent, Gino, you need to write Happy Money, Happy Family, Happy Properties. I said, I don't want to leave. I don't want to write another real estate book. I'm sick of real estate books. I want to write something about, changing families. My mission now is to change the world one family at a time. And if I can do that through happy money, happy family, and happy legacy, that's what my mission is. But happy money really is the money you earn when you are happy, when you're abundant, something that is you love to do. Like I'm on this podcast, I want to be here. I love sharing the message. I love writing my books. I love doing podcasts. Unhappy money is the opposite. When I was at the restaurant, when I was grinding, the negativity, the scarcity. So the money aspect to me, the happiness comes from the autonomy that money provides you. Really, that's money's just a result. And understanding that
Yeah.
was crucial for me. Now, let's get
Yeah.
into the family piece. I was fortunate that we homeschool our kids, so I spent a lot of time with my kids. They were also at the restaurant a lot, working at the restaurant, and they were also part of Jake and Gino. So they've become part of the company, the family, and now we're launching a company called Barbaro 360. My 3 oldest kids are
Mhm.
going to be part of that company. My son's a financial coach, and my 2 daughters are wellness coaches and they're massage therapists. So we're starting a company together. That's part of the legacy piece. And you'd mentioned
Yeah.
legacy. To me, legacy is so important because
Mhm.
legacy is I can say it is you're a gardener. A gardener plants a seed. Legacy is you may not ever see that seed grow, but you know you planted
Mhm.
it and you are going to affect future generations. That
Yeah.
conversation should be starting today, no matter whether you have $1 or $100 million. It's not just about the financial aspect of legacy. It to me, it is about the values aspect. I want to leave my values to my children, whether it's
Mhm.
responsibility, whether it's religious, whether it is hardworking, whatever it is. I want my kids to embody what we've built here, and I want to be able to pass on the wealth that we've created. I want them to become financial stewards. I want them to be able to control it, but also be able to create more impact with that money. And if I'm here sitting and making money and not teaching them along the way, well, when I'm not here anymore, that money's going to be squandered. That money's going to be
Yeah.
gone. So for
Yeah.
you to do this, as somebody listening to this, you have to start the conversation today, and you have to be transparent about how you're making money, what your financial situation looks like. Don't hide anything from kids. Don't be Amy
Right.
the avoider who's sitting there and avoiding the money problems. Let the kids have that conversation with you, because when they grow up, they're going to have their own money blueprint, and it's going to be because of what you said or what you didn't say to them.
Did you know that you can participate in class every Monday? We call it Monday Night Live, 7 p.m. Eastern, with me and dozens of other investor agents from around the country, in fact, the world. Every Monday, totally free. No selling, no recruiting, just straight up education on anything and everything in real estate. And we have a lot of good guests coming on once or twice a month, bringing in expertise on subjects like how to buy a house with crypto. Okay. How about them apples? What about AI? How's AI affecting our business? How about the metaverse, blockchain processing? We're already using it in title work. So come on to Monday Night Live. Be ready to take notes and ask questions because it's live and engaging, and you get to participate by asking questions and meeting others. So we'll see you there. Go to GaryRealEstateWithGaryWilson.com. Click on the resource tab, drop down, and you'll see Monday Night Live. And in there, you can see one of the most recent classes. But more importantly, you can register for class as many as you want going up to like the end of the year, I believe. So in any case, do that. We'll see you on Monday Night Live. Look forward to meeting you in person. Take care. Yeah. So such a poignant point. I mean, it really isn't necessarily what we say, it's what we do. It's our behavior, the way
Yes.
we act and react. I mean, that's what kids are going to absorb. They're watching.
Mm-hmm.
They're watching. Remember when we were kids, how we looked at our parents. They were
Yes.
everything to us.
Mm-hmm.
So our kids are doing the same to us, whether we're aware of it or not. And if you're not aware of it, folks, you need to be aware of it. Everything
Gary,
you do. Go ahead. Yeah,
what I want to say, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is really important for
that's good.
anybody listening to this. Take a trip down memory lane. Think of
Mhm,
yourself as that 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old kid. What did you
mhm.
hear with your parents about money? What did you see? What didn't you see? For
Yeah,
myself, I always heard my mom say, we need to save money, save for a rainy day. We don't have enough money to afford that. I went to Sears. We shopped at the Alexanders and the cheap stores, and that was my money blueprint. I'm a great saver, but with
mhm,
saving, you need to be able to save money to be able to invest money. But at the same time,
mhm.
it does develop a little bit of a scarcity mindset because I like to see dollars in the
Yeah,
bank, but then when I take the dollars out, what's money? What is the money there for? Money's there to be enjoyed. It's not there just to be
right.
hoarded. So you just need to be careful and become aware of what your
Yeah,
relationship with money is. And my relationship was one of just like scarcity. And then when I
yeah,
became an investor, I'm saving money to buy an asset. That asset is paying for those events. And then to
yeah,
continue that process, the events are paid, whether it's a college tuition, whether it's retirement, whether it's a party, whether it's a vacation, but I still have that asset. And if I can think of it that
exactly.
way and then enjoy the money, but if I don't understand what my relationship with money is, I'm going to continue to do the things that are detrimental to that relationship with money.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, fortunately, I have my own rich dad, poor dad story. When I was a freshman in
Mhm.
college, I met a guy named Socrates. His parents were Greek immigrants, and his dad turned out was an investor. And Soc and I became best friends. When we graduated, his dad helped us get our first house. And true to his nature, he didn't give us one dime. He just
Mhm.
showed us, he taught us how to fish. He did not give us a fish. And this was back when interest rates were through the roof. I mean, this was the mid 80s. And so we bought a house. We assumed the guy's first mortgage. It was a VA mortgage. You can still do that today. People say, you can't do
Oh,
it anymore. I said, yes, you can. We refinanced his second, and then we gave him a third note for the remaining equity. But the thing I'm getting at is this: is I learned from Mr. Demet, Sock's dad. I also learned from Robert Kiyosaki is, you know what? Don't don't he calls them doodads. Don't buy the doodads. Buy the income producing asset and use that cash flow to buy the toys, you know. And that's
Yes.
how I've lived my life. And so when my kids were little, this was so funny. I took them to Disney World twice, took them to Mexico three times, and we that's an amazing vacation. When I was a kid, vacation meant we went to sleep in a tent on the beach. You know, that's our vacation. You know, so my kid, but I made sure they
Yes.
understood. They showed my watch. I had them watch it. I had my son work for me, right? And I had my daughter, look at the books. I said, the reason we went to Disney World this year is because I bought three duplexes, a fourplex, and a couple of triplexes this year to flip two homes.
Hmm.
That's how we went to Disney World. If I was still
Yes.
schlepping away at the bank like I used to do in a cube in an office that I was not born to be doing, like you,
Hmm.
I knew instinctively I'm not going to make it here. I said we would never be able to take these trips. I'd be
Hmm.
working 40 years. You take college loans out. So my kids didn't pay for college. I had them take out one loan each. That's some skin in the game. But I made sure they understood everything that
Hmm.
I invested led to them me paying for their cash, their tuition and room and board. But in any case, that's all the legacy stuff I was referring to earlier. And I love the book. So it's happy money, happy family, happy legacy. And it sounds like you covered it from point A to point B. And I love the thing you said about money. It's a result. And I always tell people, it's not the goal, it's the measurement of how well you've done achieving your goals and who you
Hmm.
become as a person to be able to
Oh,
generate that kind of wealth. You know,
that's well
it's
said.
who you be. Yeah, yeah. So tell us more. I mean, anything in particular in there, like we love stories. We get the best reviews when people can take us down memory lane, and even if it's something that's you laugh about it now, but back then it was painful. That kind of stuff. Because I want people to realize you're going to make mistakes in spite of your best efforts and all the due diligence and analysis. The smartest people still make mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, that probably means you're really not pushing hard enough. But anything
Hmm.
come to mind you can share without you can change the names if you want.
Yeah,
you
what,
know.
what I want to do that I want to really acknowledge the story that you laid out. One of my limiting beliefs when I heard growing up with my mother was it takes money to make money.
Mm,
And your story
yeah.
completely shatters that belief. Now, if you believe that your behaviors are belief driven, you're not going to go
Yep.
out, assume a loan, get a second,
Yep.
and get a note for a third. You didn't use any money. What you did was you had a lot of value and you had a lot of
Mm,
creativity and you had a lot of, you had that mentor helping you out. There wasn't any money involved in that. There was just a lot of value creation. You created value for the seller and you created value for yourself. I think
mhm.
that's what people don't understand. So that is really important. And that's what I'm talking about with the relationship with money. If I have these limiting beliefs and I believe
Yeah.
them, I'm not going to act on them. But a story about legacy, and I really wanted to drive this home. I'd shared with this with you before we hit the
Okay.
record button. The legacy piece is important to me because in 2007, when my dad was sick, he's passing away. A month before
Mhm.
he passed away, I'm at the house. It's in the summertime. The whole family's there. And I have the accountant there and I have the priest there saying last rites. And the accountant is going over trust work. My mom
Yeah.
did not set up the trust. There's estate planning that's going on like a month before my dad's passing away. And it
Mhm.
was the most for me it was so sad because it's a time where you're supposed to be grieving, where you're supposed to have that moment to yourself. You don't have that much time left, and yet you need to take care of this stuff because when he
Yeah.
passes away, if it's not in the trust, it goes to probate, and you've got to wait
Oh, yeah.
12 months, 18 months. It's going to cost you a ton of money. So for me, when it happened, I was thankful that my mom had taken care of it. But for my mother, the grieving process, she never had the proper time to grieve my dad's life when he
Right.
passed away. And like I told you, we had an irrevocable trust set up. She had just
Mhm.
closed it a year or two ago, and we had closed
Mhm.
all the assets back out in 2020. So you could see that she did
Wow.
not want to let
Yeah.
go. She was holding on to that sadness and those memories for all those years. She had never grieved
Yeah.
properly. So for anybody listening to this, 70% of this country, the people in this country, do not have proper estate planning. Don't wait
Yep.
until it's too late for two reasons. Number one, for yourself. But for number two, don't thrust all these responsibilities and these duties onto your kids and let them figure it out when you can be figuring it out with them. You don't want to leave
Right.
the burden onto them because that's when the infighting starts. Set that up before. Proper planning
Hmm.
prevents poor performance. And I'm here to tell everybody, don't waste time. Don't say to yourself, I've still got time.
Yeah.
You may have time, but if you
Right.
don't, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is too is if you, I, kn- you know, being at the age group I'm in, my parents' age and their uncles and aunts, it's unfortunately they're the ones starting to pass away. But I'm watching this and I realize, you know what? I am going to take care of it now. I am going to
yes,
plan now properly because now I can relax. I don't have
yes,
to have that weight hanging over my head in the next, Lord willing, I'll be around another 30, 40 years, who knows? But the reality is I can see the stress that some of them have gone through, and I think it's way better to plan and prepare ahead of time. Then you can relax, enjoy the rest of your life, and don't worry. You know everybody's going to be taken care of. All the legal stuff. You're not going to give all your money to Uncle Sam. And we're got to pay your taxes. I get that, but you know what I mean.
yes.
Only what you're required to pay. You don't have to pay all the lawyers and the courts to settle all this stuff. It's just ridiculous. So, well, I really appreciate you sharing that. And now in the book, when it comes to is that more about the like the money, the family, the legacy? Is are there is there teaching in there about the money part about real estate? I know you've got other books too. We can talk about them if you'd like to. But I know people are wondering now. They're sitting there thinking, okay, I understand I need to plan for all that, but I need to have
Yes.
something to plan with. I don't have the assets right now. What do I do if I got a duplex? How do I get to the tenplex? That kind of thing, you know? So,
That's a great question. I don't have strategies specifically in the book, but what I'll say is, and I'll share a strategy that I use. But what I'll
mhm.
say is, before you start investing or putting any money into any asset, understand your persona, understand what you like to invest in. If you're a high
Yes.
flyer, if you're a gambler, multifamily may not be for you because it's a really boring asset. So somebody may say to you, it may be the best vehicle on the planet, but let me tell you something. It's not a lot of act. It's not a lot. We do 2 or 3 deals a year. If you're a deal junkie, you're going to get bored real quick and you're going to make a mistake. So understand what your persona is. The next thing is understand what these happy hormones that we talk about in the book, dopamine. Dopamine is an important chemical. You need to understand why are you doing and making the decisions you're making. Are you, especially as an investor, are you going out and spending money willfully and then all of a sudden you regret it? Well, understand what's going on. Understand your relationship once again with money. Once you build the foundation's there. Then you can go say to yourself, hey, Gino, I love multifamily. How do I get into real estate? Well, let's talk about the
Yeah.
buy right, the manage right, and the finance right. From
Yeah.
there, let's start talking about selecting a market in real estate. Now we can start talking
Okay.
about doing some market research. Let's start talking about picking a market. Let's start talking about becoming an expert in a market. But more importantly, let's start talking about what your goals are. If your
Right.
goals are to leave your job in the next 5 years, it's a lot different than, hey, I've got a 20-year time horizon where I'm just going to start putting money aside for investing in real estate. Maybe you start out as a passive investor in one of Gary's deals or one of Gino's deals, invest in their deals, but you still got to learn the business. Just because it's
Yeah.
passive doesn't mean that it's passive to you. You still need to hold that business partner accountable with your money. So you really
Right.
need to learn the business of real estate, whether it's self-storage, whether it's single-family
Yeah.
home investing, whether it's multifamily investing. That's the message to me. Build the foundation first. Know what you're going to invest in. Know what your strength is. Because hey, if you like Bitcoin, I'm not going to tell you that Bitcoin is a crappy investment. I don't think of it as an investment. It's more of a speculative play for me because I don't really understand it. I don't really like
Right.
looking at my phone every 20 minutes and looking at trades. That's not my love. My love is to buy a
Yeah.
property, see those 10 units, see them dilapidated, get a really good deal on them, fix them up. 6 months later, I've got money coming in every month. I can refinance the value out. I've got tax benefits like cost segregation, and I can go buy another deal. I love
Yeah.
that. That's what excites me about real estate, but it's also slow and boring to others.
Yeah. I agree. It's funny. I think I was telling this before. I I had a lot of real estate in early years, and to me, what I like to the way to describe it to people is this. After a while, it wasn't like I was particularly enamored with it. It was, in fact, it got to the point it was just like, oh my gosh, I got another day of all this stuff. But the fact is, though, it did allow me to build a foundation
Yes.
upon which I did other things that I really did enjoy. I learned how to build business. So I realized,
Yes.
what, man, I got all these tenants. I got all these and the owners. They kept asking me, hey, can you manage my properties for me? Because I built the brokerage company out of working with investors. That was my first business foray in the corporate world. And it worked really well. And I realized I need property management. I said, sure. I lost the property management business. Then I realized everybody's getting title insurance for every property they buy. I was like, I could do that. So this sounds crazy. Gino's right out of one of those movies. I literally took the title exam. Not no, I didn't practice, didn't learn, didn't study. I passed it the very first time because I'd already done like 3,000, 5,000
Yeah.
transactions.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I literally had seen the questions they were asking. I was like, I'd seen that. I thought this was like some kind of somebody's playing a joke on me here. And I went to, oh, by the way, I went to the first title. There's a conferences every year in the title industry, just like there is in real estate industry. So I went to one. Turns out I was the only non-attorney there. Those guys were
Re-
incredulous. They couldn't believe it. I said, wait a second. You don't have a law license? No, I don't have a law license. How do you own a title company? So because I'm allowed to. I can't own a law firm, but a title
Yes.
company technically is not a law firm. In any case, I'll tell you this was quick because this was such a comical thing. They had an FBI guy there talking about what happened in the big recession years in 2007 through 11, and some of the players that were involved with all the fake paper that was floating around. People pasting
Oh,
together applications and just crazy stuff. Well, there was a lawyer that he was talking about that I knew personally, and I happened to have lunch with that lawyer the day he was indicted. I was home at my home eating dinner at the
oh
kitchen
man.
counter. All of a sudden, the news comes there he is. So and so's indicted. I'm like, holy you know? So, in any case, what I learned to build businesses, and then what I learned was I like building businesses. I just don't like managing businesses. So what I realized I've got to either sell, merge, or just hire somebody to just be the CEO and run it. And all I do is collect the profit. And
I
that's the
love that.
final thing that I learned. That's, I don't want to sell the things I built, but I am going to take the profit from them. And
But you have an
that was
abundance
my,
mindset. That's your money
yeah,
blueprint. You've turned into that. Anyone with a scarcity mindset would say, no, I need to own the whole thing myself. I don't want to share.
yeah,
But what you've understood is you like this. This is what you like to
yeah,
do. You excel at
yeah.
this. I'm going to share because I've got a really understanding. My happy money, Gary's happy money is building something, nurturing
Mhm.
it, and then letting it grow, extrapolating the equity out of that. If he wants to sell it, great. If you want to find somebody to partner with, that's great as well. But that's what it is. If somebody's going to tell you, Gary, you need to go buy a 100-unit apartment complex, manage it yourself, that's unhappy money. You're going to hate that and you're not going to want to
Yeah.
do it. And you're probably going to fail at it
Yep.
long term.
Exactly. Yeah. Remember our parents used to tell us, do what you love. And I used to,
Yes.
I was like, no, I'm going to make a lot of money. Yeah. But man, they were so right. They were so right
Hmm.
because if you don't get excited every day, like today, I love the business I have now. It's funny because I literally succeed by giving away and letting go of a lot, like including responsibility, by the way. I have a national team of real estate agents that work with investors. That's our specialty all over the country,
Hmm.
and I get a little piece of a lot of little pies. And all I do is I inspire people, encourage people, coach people, get involved with negotiations and teamwork and stuff like that. And I love it. I've been doing it for 5 years. I'm like, I mean, you can tell I get just as excited today as I did then. So I finally followed the advice, do what you love, and the growth just seems to happen automatically. So I wish
Hmm.
I never. Some people listen to this, like people in their 20s and 30s, like I was. I just want to build the empire. They just want to build the empire. But I'm telling you, there's a better way, and it's a lot easier when you follow Gino's advice and do the thing you love. To have everything we're talking about here, like happy money, right? Happy family, happy legacy, is only possible when you've got that core belief and philosophy and the model and the advice that you're following, from Gino.
Hmm.
So, in any case, I keep rambling. I shouldn't do that because you're the guest. but
Not at
I
all.
know we're going to get short on time here. But anything you can think of, and it could be from your parents or grandparents in the restaurant business, something that you really have carried with you all these years, Gino, that it's like when you hit a wall, hit a challenge, personal or business, and it's like, you know what, this is the thing that carries you through. What anything you can think of. A lot of people, it's like their grandma, something they taught her. Seems to be a common thing. But
I
you,
think there's
any,
two things or two people in my life. Number one, obviously, is my wife. and my relationship with God. I think, having her and being able to sit back and to say, it'll pass. Things will pass. And sometimes when you're in that negative feeling, you don't know who or what to turn to. And I always think to myself, this is a problem right now. But I've learned in my life with every problem, there's always opportunities and there's always a learning lesson. And I think the second one, for anybody out there, if you're afraid to go it alone, go out and find a great business partner. Go out and align with somebody
Yeah.
like my Jake. I was fortunate
Yeah.
because one of my mentors called it values-based decision making. And when you select a partner, investors, somebody to work with, they have to align with your values, with your beliefs. And if
Yep.
they do, you can create some kind of magic. I had a rough day today. Got on the phone with Jake, felt a lot better. Jake, I got this problem
Yeah.
going on. And the same thing with him. We role play, we discuss throughout the day. There's somebody that I know that's in my corner. Because Gary, sometimes there are days when you're all alone. You're an entrepreneur. You can't talk to anybody, not even your spouse, about certain
Yep.
things. But if you've got a business partner who understands and who's in the trenches with you, you can say to yourself, hey, I can give him a call and he can lift me up or he can give me some kind of
Yeah.
advice and make me feel a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's great advice. I love both parts of that, and it is so true. I mean, if you know, we always are geniuses in hindsight. Everything makes sense when you look back on it. It's
Yes.
not maybe not right away, but eventually it will. And if you look at it as a classroom, God gives us this big, beautiful classroom and everything we're learned from. If you have that state of mind, every day is a good day.
Hmm.
Things that were catastrophic when they happened years ago, planted the seeds for some things in the future that happen that are just way beyond anything I could possibly have come up with it on my own. So I
Hmm.
appreciate
I
you
love
saying
that.
that. Yeah. And
It's
then a
one door
partner.
closes, like you said, one door
Mhm.
closes. And why is that door closing? Maybe we don't know today, but I
Yep.
think when that door closes, another door opens. If you're looking for it, and if you're
Yeah.
positive, and if you're in the right mindset, and you're engaged, that all
Mhm.
has to happen. That can be really difficult. That's why you need important people in your life that can help you out and make you, walk through that because there can be challenges there. So the door
Yeah.
closes. You have to say to yourself, what is the opportunity in that door closing? And maybe that wasn't the right door for me. There's another door down the road for me.
Yeah. I agree 100%. Hey, I'll tell you what, we should probably try to look at wrapping this up. But before we do, would you mind sharing the titles of your other books? And then we'll wrap up with
Oh,
the Happy
sure.
Money, Happy Family, Happy Legacy. And where can people get them? Do you have a website? The best to go to
Yeah,
Amazon?
two websites. Just go to jakeandgino.com. And then we have a
Okay.
website coming up right now. We're building it with the next week or so. It's going to launch. It's called barbaro360.com. It's a family website. You can find the books there. The book that I'd recommend, if anybody wants to get a good real estate book, it's called Wheelbarrow Profits. Just, email me, gino@jakeandgino.com, and I'll send you a PDF copy of it. It lays out the
Okay.
whole three-step framework. It's got some goal setting in there, but it talks about that three-step framework. And you can utilize that, like I said, Gary, whether you're buying businesses, whether you're investing in real estate, it's really a
Yeah.
good way to build a foundation to become a great investor.
Okay. Awesome. So website, Barbaro 360 and also Jake and Gino.
Yep.
Okay. And then Wheelbarrow Money. I was trying to write as fast as I could. So
Oh, Wheelbarrow Profits.
Wheelbarrow Profits. Thank you very much. Let me write that down. Okay. And if they email you, Gino@jakeandgino.com, they can get a PDF copy.
Yeah, I'll send a PDF copy of both. I'll send them a PDF copy of Happy Money as well.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, listen, thanks again, Gino, for doing this, and thank you, listeners and people watching this on the video channels. We love your reviews. If you could leave a review, that would be awesome. Okay, and also I should have mentioned that Gino also has a what's the podcast, Gino?
It's the Jake and Gino podcast.
Jake and Gino podcast. Go check it out, guys. Check it out. Leave Jake and Gino podcast a review too, because Gino will tell you your review is our fuel.
Ah,
That's what keeps
geez.
the podcast world moving around. But
Mhm.
in any case, God bless all of you. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you on the next Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.